what to do with my hands.
I never know what to do with my hands. Let's
great,
get into
thank you.
a spoiler-free movie review of Young Woman in the Sea. I have not been this inspired by a movie that we went to go see in theaters in a really long time.
I should have read the book.
Oh, yeah. It's so unlike you. Well, I guess I don't really know a whole lot about this story.
We just went to see it because I was like, oh, a movie we haven't seen on a Friday night.
We love Daisy Ridley. I kind of forgot that it was a Disney movie going into it, but right when you walk in and you see the Disney logo, you're like, oh, we're about to be in for one of those types of movies. And it reminded me that when it comes to inspirational sports movies, Disney does it the best. They really don't make them all that often anymore.
Did they not? They didn't do The Boys in the Boat.
No.
Clooney did that, though.
Yeah.
So Clooney does a good inspirational sports movie.
This movie kind of feels, in a way, like Boys in the Boat was.
That's what I thought.
A little bit similar, maybe because they're both in water, the time period, although that one was in World War II. This one takes place in the 1920s. So it just has that similar type of vibe. But what this movie is about, Trudy Ederle, or her real name, Gertrude Ederle, which you don't really hear a whole lot of people named Gertrude anymore. And I was hoping this movie would come out and people would be so inspired to name their kids Gertrude. Could you imagine a baby now named Gertrude?
Imagine if we had a kid, Gertrude Rodriguez.
Gertrude, get over here. Gertrude with an iPad just doesn't really flow together. But her story is, I feel like it's a little bit of a spoiler because in the description of the movie...
It's not a spoiler. It's based on a true story.
Because I feel that if you go watch something that you have no idea about, you have to kind of present it the same way you would any type of movie. But the literal description of this movie is Trudy Ederle overcomes adversity and she becomes the first woman to complete the 20-mile trek from France to England, a.k.a. the English Channel. So in the description of the movie, you know what it's about. But here's how I feel about these types of spoilers in particular. If they give it away, it's okay to talk about it. But also...
history isn't a spoiler.
It's true. Like, some things in history I don't know about, and I don't want to know going into it.
It can't be a spoiler if it really happened. Like if you could have learned about it at some point in time, whether it be a book...
It can still be a spoiler, but you can't be upset about it. Much like the way your younger brother ruined the end of Ford v Ferrari for you. He's like, it really happened, but still, you didn't know how it happened.
This is true. Okay. I forgot about that.
But still, this is something, like the whole premise of the movie and the reason they made a movie about Trudy Ederle is because what she accomplished. So you're watching this movie knowing how it's going to end, knowing that she's going to cross the English Channel and complete it. You don't know all the
hardships.
All the hardships. So you don't know all that. So for me, even if somebody spoils a movie for me, if it's a good movie, I'm going to enjoy the journey. But what this movie is about, you have Trudy at a very young age who is sick. She has measles. They think she is going to die, and she ends up pulling through.
Which is one of the funniest scenes.
And then after she has measles, they tell her that she's not going to be able to swim because if she gets in the water, she could lose her hearing, which measles is just a wild disease.
Measles is coming back.
That's sad.
Because I won't get on my public health tangent, but there is a vaccine for it. That's all I'll say.
But then she wants to swim, and even though her parents are so scared of what would happen if she gets sick again or if she loses her hearing, she is able to convince her parents to...
Her mom.
Her mom.
Her mom was awesome.
Her mom was great. Her dad was the one that was more hesitant of her swimming, not just because she was sick, but also because she's a woman. So
classic. That
was the first hardship she had to overcome. And what I like about movies like this that are about a character who overcomes something, and really the main headline is her crossing the English Channel and all the training she has to do, from not being able to swim, finding a coach, and the movie is also a story about two sisters. So I always like to find that underlying story. It kind of reminded me of the first time I watched La Bamba, which is the story of Richie Valens and his rise to fame. And if you just look at that trailer of that movie, look at the description, you think that's what it's going to be about his music.
Love that movie.
While it is about him and it's a biopic and it gets all into how he became famous and how he died, at the core of that movie, it's really a story about two brothers. One brother who is destined for greatness. His mom is kind of pushing his career. He's like the star child. He's the favorite. And the other brother is kind of the degenerate, doesn't really get a whole lot of attention. He's messed up a lot. And it's how, even though they love each other, they butt heads a lot because they are so opposite and because one gets more love from the mom and the other doesn't. Kind of in that same way is the parallels between Trudy and her sister of Trudy ends up being the one who is the elite swimmer, even though her sister was also a swimmer. And her sister goes through these other kind of hardships of how she is going to find somebody to marry, find a career. And it's just really hard for both of them. And even though they are kind of on these opposite trajectories in life, it is their bond as sisters and how close they are, how much they look out for each other, and how much they love each other is really almost the foundation of this movie. So aside from me being inspired to want to go out into the sea and learn how to do long distance swimming,
did not make me want to.
There were some parts, like whenever she swims at night, that's literally one of my worst nightmares, being in open water at night.
No, thank you.
That seems terrifying to me.
Also, just like her sense of, and she has like kind of not a guide boat, but alongside her, but her sense of directionality, which I won't give any spoilers. There's a part where it's like, oh no, but you're really good at directions. I could stand in the ocean. You turn me around a couple times and I don't know which way is land.
It's hard. Yeah, I don't even know where to look. I don't even know what to look for. And not only the part of just like knowing where you are and knowing where to go, I think just the level of exhaustion
the stamina
you must experience. Now, the only thing I could relate to in that regard is I run a lot. I do long distance running, but I can't imagine being in a place where you're just in the middle of the ocean and you just have to keep pushing yourself. You can't stop.
You can't take a break and like stand.
Yeah,
you can, like float on your back for a minute.
If you run for that same amount for 21 miles, you can stop, you can take a break, and you don't risk death just by slowing down. And it's also the fact that you're just in open water and there are no rules. The things in the ocean don't know that you're going for a record here. They don't care about you. You're not in like a controlled environment. You are just in the open water. There are no rules. The sea is unforgiving. It's going to do what it wants to you. And that's why this was such a dangerous thing to attempt, why so many people have failed, and why she was seen as like, you're not going to do this. You're a woman. There's no way you could possibly achieve this.
Also, I love that they use, what was it, like lard and like porpoise fat, which seems a little unethical, probably in
to keep them warm.
Yeah, and then I guess the lard is to like be able to move. Is the lard also to keep them warm?
Yeah,
or is some of it to move through the water better?
Maybe that too, but I think what I read is they put it on to keep them warm because she's in just a swimsuit in freezing water.
I can't even swim underwater without holding my nose.
Like, that's the other thing. It's
embarrassing confessions.
It's freezing cold, and then all the salt, which I did. This is one of those movies you watch and go research a little bit about afterwards, and I'm happy to report that pretty much everything that happens in the movie actually happened in real life. I think they changed some of the timeline as far as when things happen just to move it along.
Also, sometimes in movies, because I've listened to a podcast recently where an author of fiction was talking about how her movies are going to be made. Movies are going to be made from her books, and she was saying like audiences don't necessarily want to see the exact same thing in the movie. Like if you wanted the same thing, read the book. But like a movie adaptation is meant to keep people entertained and keep the story moving, and there's a little bit of like creative liberties that come with turning a true story or a book into a movie.
I do like some subtle plot changes. I think of whenever I read all the Hunger Game books and then went to go watch those movies in theaters. It's a little bit less exciting to see it play out exactly how it did in the book and take it beat from beat because you know what is going to come. So it's a little less like, oh yeah, that was cool. It's like, oh yeah, then this happens, then this happens. I already read all this. It was almost like you've already seen the movie before going to see the movie.
Right.
So I do like some changes, and obviously they're going to Hollywood up it a little. Did I say that right? They're going to Hollywood it up a little bit.
There you go.
Because to take a movie adaptation, you kind of make some more inspiring moments. You change a little bit of things. You embellish here and there. And you still hold the integrity of the story, but also make it a little bit more entertaining, exciting, and uplifting. And I think Disney has done that pretty well over just all the inspirational sports movies that they've done.
Were you saying something about the salt? Is that what started this?
Oh, yeah. I was researching.
Circling back.
After. I just wanted to see how accurate everything was. And the one thing they actually didn't include in the movie is due to the fact that she was submerged in salt water for so long, her tongue was swollen by the end of it. Because just imagine you're taking in all the salt water, I just imagine what it does to your skin, but then your mouth is open, so your tongue just swells up. So
like
you probably treat it with rates like this, much like people criticize my podcast because I have a little lisp because of my braces. So that's probably well, you don't like when I make fun of myself?
No, it makes me
They
sad.
make fun of me.
I know.
Right here on YouTube.
And I don't like that, but
I'm getting them off soon so people can relax.
that's okay. Somebody once on your Instagram asked if I was pregnant, so
People on the internet,
I get it.
They just ask whatever.
they just, if they have a thought, you know, it's like when you think things, maybe don't ask them. People on the internet are just like, you know what, I'm going to ask.
And it's a lose-lose situation. Like with me with my braces, it's either, hey, why don't you smile? And when I do smile, hey, when are you getting those things off? Hey, you talk. Like, I don't know what to do.
I did see people asking Taylor Swift if Taylor Swift was pregnant. And I was like, the woman does a 3.5-hour show and is in the best shape ever. Like, we can't win as women.
But this was a movie that I got more and more inspired as it went along.
It was so good.
It was just, I think it was also that we went into it not expecting a whole lot. I think we're both now kind of on a Daisy Ridley kick.
Such a big fan of Daisy Ridley. Her acting, her range is incredible.
I also went and saw some of the behind the scenes, and to see her actually in the water filming this movie. Like, I don't know if they went to the English channel exactly, but they actually went out into open water and filmed some of these scenes. And she was saying that she became a better swimmer as filming went on. So it kind of was like the progression of her character in the movie. I think that's a pretty big level of commitment because you could easily just shoot this all in a tank and not have to go out and actually swim, or you could just get a stunt double to do it all.
And then they showed pictures at the end of like the real
Best
Trudy.
part of a true story movie.
And again, this isn't a spoiler, but she eventually did lose her hearing due to swimming and having had measles. But then she devoted her life to teaching deaf kids how to swim. And it was so sweet and cute. And they had like pictures. And I'm shocked they had the footage of her like making it. Like they had like video footage of that from the 1920s.
I don't even have memories of me from like 2000 to 2007. And they have stuff from back in the 20s.
I don't know what I did yesterday. So to have footage of, I don't even know that where any of my like VHS videos of me as a child are. So the fact that they had that's like 17 precursors to the VHS tape.
They're like, this is important. We better roll on this here. All right. So overall, for Young Woman in the Sea, what would you rate it?
I'm giving it 5 out of 5 jellyfish.
I would give it a strong 4.5 out of 5 pairs of goggles.
But I think I might read the book now.
I'd like to say I'd go and read the book, but I know I'd read like 2 pages and be like, I'm going to read something else.
I'll read the book for everyone and report back.
There we go.